Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Our show today is A Woman's Prerogative Part 2. We had a really interesting time and an interesting discussion in Part 1. I'm Caroline HEWARD, and I'm absolutely thrilled and honoured to be representing Dr. Jacqueline as your host for USA Global TV and Radio and TV and Radio's flagship show, A Woman's Prerogative. I'm also a TV presenter and the resident therapist for USA Global TV and Radio. A very warm welcome to our loyal viewers and our viewers across our usual social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. Our topic tonight is an interesting one: home and heart, exploring the meaning of where we truly belong. We had a fascinating discussion in A Woman's Prerogative Part 1, and I'm looking forward to the adventure of discussing this topic in Part 2. I'm obviously not alone. If you're a regular on this channel, I'm joined with a wonderful panelist, all the way from Australia, and I've remembered it right this time because she's moved. Wonderful MARISKA from Australia. Please welcome Mariska. Hello.
Hello, Caroline. Yeah, we are getting there, getting used to the fact that it is now Australia, not New Zealand anymore. And what a fascinating topic to be talking about after the moves. Your move, a little bit different space in the UK, and my move across the ocean.
And Dr. Jacqueline's move as well, who's very wonderfully behind the scenes, creating all the whizzy effects of producing the show tonight. So please, before we go into our topic, Mariska, please share with our viewers a little bit about what you do and the specialism of how you help people.
Thank you, Caroline. So I am Mariska for those of you that do not know me. For those that's a little bit more regular here on USA Global TV and Radio, you might have seen me at other A Woman's Prerogatives, or alternatively, you might have noticed me on our Talking Heads show, where I also make some appearances from time to time. So what it is that I do is I work and partner with leaders. Now, whether you are an emerging leader going from a specialization into leadership, or it might be that you are moving up within your leadership space, that is where I help. And I help you to bring more humanness into your space because, well, if we started off as a specialist in some shape or form, we have a tendency to be very well versed within our area of expertise, but not necessarily within the humanness space. Even if we were to be a doctor, the diseases and the human body might be very well within our space, but not necessarily the human and how to work with other humans to get the best out of them. So that's where I come in. And you can typically find me either on LinkedIn or alternatively, you can also reach me via email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com. And with that, Caroline, over to you so we can hear where to find you and what you are doing.
Thank you very much, Mariska. I love that too bit. I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I have been working with people for over 2 decades. I started working with people, helping them bust their stress since 2000, when I solved my own anxiety and depression after losing my dad. I help people break through the patterns that create their everyday stress. Usually when we're stressed, we experience it in a regular way, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or behavioral, whether we're not sleeping, complaining about that physical ache or pain, or whether we're complaining about a relationship, or we're complaining about a situation, that something repeats. I call it the revolving door, that we keep going back to experiencing the same thing, different person, different time, different situation, that same experience. And I help you break through the root cause of what's creating your repeating patterns of the way you experience your stress. And you can find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and also on YouTube, on USA Global TV and Radio. And you can just search for my name on the channel, and under the playlists, if you find my name, you will find all of the episodes that I have done on USA Global TV and Radio. So let's get into the topic, Mariska. A reminder: home and heart, exploring the meaning of where we truly belong. So Mariska, please do share with our audience, whether you're on the live or the replay, what home means to you personally. When you hear the word home, what does it bring up for you, and what does it mean for you?
Caroline, having moved quite a few times, it is a very interesting concept. When does a place become a home? And I've been thinking about this lately as I have moved countries, and it's also been a evolving way of life, really, because for those of us that have immigrated and moved countries, it is quite a bit of a shock. So if you were to think about a full-grown tree that's used to one specific area where it grew up from a seedling until its full grownness, and now all of a sudden you are taking it out of the soil, literally, and replanting it somewhere else. Now, if we do not do that properly, and we do not prepare the tree properly, and we do not take most of the root systems with it, the tree will in all likelihood die. And that's a little bit, well, not necessarily as severe, but it can feel as severe for humans too. Because when you think about the places where you stayed, there's a root system of sorts. So we have our networks, we have the people that we grew up with, we have all the systems and processes that we got used to. And then moving to a different country or even a different town makes a big, big difference, because we don't necessarily have all our friends as close. We don't have family as close. We don't have the things that we typically know and love as close by. And all of those things makes up part of the root system. Now, some of the things might be very deep roots, such as family and friends. Other things might feel like a little bit more shallow roots. For instance, going to our favorite restaurant or movie theater or whatever it is that we enjoy doing. So understanding how that root system is influenced when we're moving and how to create that as a new home. So when we think about our tree, for example, we can put it in a new hole in the ground. But if it doesn't have the right nutrients or the right amount of water in that area, it might not make it. Plus, it will need extra care during the time that it's establishing itself. And that I have found for me is something that I need to take into consideration when I'm establishing myself in a new area as well. And that's the things that make it home for me. So making sure that I have some creature things that I want to have close to me, things that I feel is important. I remember speaking to somebody once, and they weren't able to take a lot of things with them when they moved. They also immigrated to a different country. And I said, well, take small things, even if it is a duvet cover or your favorite pillowcase and some ornaments or a picture that you love. Something small that can still fit in your bag, but when you have it on that side, it still feels like it's yours and it's home for you, even if it's just something small. And then the other thing that I found for me is having some regular haunt of some sort that I can create within the environment where I'm staying. So getting a favorite coffee shop or a park that I enjoy going to. That also helps me to make a place feel more homey. So that's a couple of things that come up for me when you speak about home. And I know that you also moved. So what do you find for yourself?
Thank you, Mariska. I was nodding a lot when you were going through that list. And from my perspective, everything that you've just shared in terms of what makes a home is exactly the same for me. And the addition of what I didn't share earlier on is that the people, the communities is very important to me. And I built an extraordinarily wonderful community in London, as I did when I was in Birmingham in my family home with my parents and my brothers. And I'm very good at building communities, but it takes me a little while. And it took me probably about a year to build the community that I started to thrive in London. I went there and I was very alone. I just went to get married, and then I landed up being single longer in London than I was married in London. But I built lots of communities, even in the different areas of the city, moving from the north of London to the east of London near the city. I built a whole completely new community just from one side of town to the other side of town. And last night when I got back from London, because I've been in London on a very busy conference weekend, which was absolutely amazing, it was wonderful to connect again with friends that I hadn't seen for a while, and just to be in that physical space. I couldn't believe how different it felt to be amongst a room full of people, and people that were waiting for me and waiting for me to speak. And it just felt good. And I don't have that here at the moment in Doncaster, which is my new city. And when I was in London, the east side of town was very different because it was near the city. And what was wonderful for me is that I found that when I was saying goodbye and leaving last year, there was a lot of people that I spoke to that were running different that I was part of in different communities that were saying, you're going to be missed. You're a very important part of the community. And that made me feel very heartened, because that's what I felt. I felt that I'd built a community of social and a community of friends that I probably wouldn't have had if I hadn't have gone out and done things. So I had a gong bath community, I had a chanting community, I had different shamanic community, I had a conference community. And I know this sounds all a little bit crazy, but it was something that was really important to me. And I came here last year knowing no one, having nothing, and I'm building a business community by joining an organization called a Federation for Business, Small Business. And last week I went to a meeting, it was a conference, and it was amazing. Sorry, it was 2 weeks ago. It was absolutely amazing because I suddenly felt I was part of something. So that very much sounds to me like home is not just the house and making it right, which is what I extensively talked about in part 1. It's also about the networks and the social and the people, because that's very important to me. So thank you for bringing that up for me to share that insight from my perspective of I hadn't really settled in London until I started building my external communities and networks. So can home be? Thank you, Mariska. It really was incredible to sort of bring that up because I just hadn't thought about it. And I kept saying to myself, I feel quite alone. I've got lovely neighbours, and I've got absolutely incredible neighbours. But, you know, people are saying to me, have you settled? And I'm thinking, no, I probably haven't yet. And that's the missing piece, which I'm working on and building. So that brings me into the next question, really, which has sort of been, you know, teetering on the edge of, can a home be more than just about the people and the place? And I've kind of been teetering on that in terms of the community. But what does that bring up for you in terms of, can the home be more about the people than the place itself?
I think so. And I think for me, it's interesting. One of the things that came up for me, being a bit more introverted, is I heard this interesting notion the other day, is that if we are introverted, especially around communities and building our network, it's sometimes difficult because introverts don't necessarily go out and build community. It takes a long time for us to get reacquainted. And thinking about myself not being in a physical work environment, it is even more difficult because I literally see the people that I see at the till when I buy my groceries and stuff like that. And well, it's not exactly like I'm going to go, oh, hello, would you love to have a cup of coffee with me in the afternoon? So it does become a little bit tricky. So the notion that I picked up was to have an extrovert adopt you. And what happens when you have an extrovert adopt you is that they will literally take you to all the places that they go and introduce you to all their friends because they are extroverted, and they might even go to a conference where they know no one, and they will still get to meet a whole bunch of people that you will also then get to meet in the process. So if you are an introvert and you are in a new place, look for an extrovert that can adopt you. That would be one way of doing it. And for me, the other element that, as you were talking about, what else is in a home other than the building and the people around it? For me, something that's very important, and potentially that's why I started with the whole tree analogy initially, planting. For me, I feel I can have all my stuff in the house. And there's something about animals and plants that it just makes it feel like home. If I have planting that I have around me, typically in pots, as I have been moving around quite a bit, as well as some form of animal, or at least getting to know the bird life in my environment, that helps me to also feel like this is home. I get to see how the things in my environment and in the ecosystem in which I am introducing myself into starts to interact with each other. And I love that element of it. That to me then starts to feel like, that I have, for instance, a crow that is coming to visit me every afternoon, around about 1 o'clock. It will hop on the fence and come and have a look whether I have put some food out for it. So I have a visitor, and it's not a human visitor, it's a crow. And I quite enjoy it when my crow comes and visits me. And it feels like that to me is home. So, Caroline, when you think about home, and I know we don't have loads of time, but what is it that comes up for you?
I love your crow.
Me too.
Well, it's a really interesting question, because what I'm doing is I'm building that community. And what I'm finding is that I build community in the things that I need and the things that I want to do. So, for instance, 90 seconds walk around the corner from my home, literally 90 seconds, there is a post office that is also a bank, so I can pay money in and I can take money out, which is really amazing. And I didn't realize post offices did that. And about 3 more doors up, there is an incredible printer who saved my life. He organized some flyers, some booking forms for me overnight within 24 hours. I briefed him on Wednesday morning, and on Thursday at 5:30, I had them in my hot little hands. And he'd organized some new business cards because I was speaking at this conference on the weekend. And I just kept giving them hugs. I said, "You're amazing, and I'm going to talk about you on the show." And I didn't even think that I could bring this up in the show, but this was what made me feel like I'm building my network of things that I need. So last year I discovered that they do photocopies. So they photocopied all my bank statements that I needed for my accounts that needed to be filed and sort of double quick time. And I just feel like I've just gone around the corner and they're all there. And when I was calling to find a local printer that I could do the photocopies for last year, I said, I'm just looking for, I was going to go into the town centre, and I couldn't find anywhere that was reasonably priced. And then I just Googled, on the internet, and found that there was one literally 2 minutes walk, if that, around the corner from me. And that to me is building really trusted networks of services that I need. And that feels very powerful for me, and that makes it home. And I will absolutely concur with you in terms of pots for plants. I've just invested in some peat-free compost for 6 pots, and I've got 300 bulbs to plant, and it keeps being icy cold. So I can't wait till the spring, and I've got to buy the pots. So this is something for my outside, first time for 24 years that I'm actually creating that outside environment. Mariska, thank you very much for bringing that up, because yes, the printer is like sort of my piece de resistance. I think he probably thought I was going mad when I kept giving him a hug. He didn't even ask for a deposit, because I'm sure that he thought I was going to come round and pick them up anyway. Is it possible to feel at home in more than one place, Mariska? And we'll keep the answer short, because we're really sort of cutting against the fine time of our divine hour. Yes.
Yes. I think so. For me, in my perspective, yes. And to go back to what you said earlier around when you went back to London and you reconnected with your community there, I think that is the times when we can have a home away from home. I know that there is nothing that sleeps as well as my own bed. I love my own bed and my own pillow. I'm sorry, no other bed or pillow just compares. Doesn't. And in saying that, there is places that feels like home away from home. It is good to be at my own, where I can do the things that I want. And it is wonderful to go and visit those places where we might have had connections or built those connections in communities before, that we can return back to. So, yeah, I do think that it is possible. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts are my family home is always going to be my home, you know, and I call it my family home where I grew up. And it feels like home because all the TVs are on in all the rooms, and it's noisy, it's chaotic, and it's home. You know, it's what I grew up with. But just thinking about it now in this moment, there are times when I say I feel I'm home. And I felt like that. And I said that when I was at the Universal Peace Federation at the very first meeting. I felt that I was with like souls, like minds, and like people. And I felt comfortable because it was the people. I felt comfortable and it felt like home. And when I went to my very first Buddhist meeting, when my marriage broke up in Northwest London, and I went to my very first meeting, I remember saying, I put up my hand and I said, I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm with other people that sound like me. And I remember feeling very emotional about that experience, because other people were talking like me and I hadn't known that before. And I know that sounds a little bit on the edge, but it did feel like that. And these are two organizations and that I felt home. And so home was a place inside me as well as a place that I go to. It became a place inside where I felt at home. Well, we're right up on top of the hour pretty much. So please, Mariska, share your contact details for our viewers before we say goodnight.
So if you would like to get a hold of me, you can do that via my email, which is mariska@journeytodiscover.com. And you can also text me on my LinkedIn and we can start our conversation that way too. So if you are a specialist moving into leadership or a leader wanting to move up in your leadership and bring a little bit more of your humanness and your team's humanness into that space, do reach out. How about you, Caroline?
Thank you, Mariska. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call if you're international +44, if you're local 07523 120 189. As I said earlier, you can follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook. And also I'm starting to post a little bit on Instagram too as well. And I'm looking forward to helping you bust your stress. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been an incredibly fast-paced and really, really momentous episode. I've really enjoyed this episode, and it was an exploration of home and heart, exploring the meaning of where we truly belong. And I feel that we did that justice tonight, Mariska. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been wonderful. I look forward to seeing you next week for a Women's Prerogative Part 1 at 7 p.m. GMT time and 2 p.m. Eastern time, and Part 2, a Women's Prerogative at 4 p.m. Eastern time and 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next week on tomorrow on Talking Heads, and next week on A Woman's Prerogative. Bye-bye for now.